All right, let's dive right in. We're going to tackle the world of advertising rules here in Ireland. It can feel, well, pretty confusing, right? Who's in charge? Who actually enforces things? And, the big one for you and me is, what do you do when you see an ad that just doesn't sit right?
You've been there, I've been there, we've all been there. You see an ad, maybe it's on a bus, maybe it pops up online, and you just get that feeling in your gut. Something's off. Maybe it feels misleading or it's just plain offensive, and you can't help but wonder, wait a second, are they even allowed to say that? Well, today, we're going to get to the bottom of it. We'll figure out what the rules actually are, and more importantly, what you can do about it.
Okay, so first things first. Before we can introduce you to the players, we got to understand the rule book. Where do these rules even come from? It's not as simple as one big book of ad laws. Nope, it's a whole legal structure, kind of layered on top of each other.
So, in Ireland, the top dog, the absolute final word, is the Constitution. Think of it as the foundation for everything. Then, on top of that, you've got laws passed by our own government and laws coming from the EU, and, those EU rules are a really big deal, especially for consumer rights. And then at the bottom, you have what's called common law. That's basically the stuff built up over time from judges' decisions in court cases. The key thing to remember is that any rule about advertising has to fit neatly inside this whole pyramid. Okay, let's bring on our first major player. And a great way to think about this one is as the industry's own referee. The one on the field making sure everyone's playing fair. We're talking about the Advertising Standards Authority for Ireland, or the ASAI for short.
Now, the key word here is self-regulatory. This is super important. The ASA wasn't set up by the government. The advertising industry itself actually created it, way back in 1981. The whole idea was to police their own work, to set their own standards, and to make sure they were keeping a high bar.
And really, their entire mission, their whole rulebook, boils down to this one simple sentence. It's their guiding principle. Every single complaint that comes through their door gets measured against this standard. Is the ad legal, decent, honest, and truthful? That's it. Simple, but pretty powerful.
So you might be asking, what kind of power does this referee actually have? What are their teeth? Well, they can investigate your complaint, and they do it for free, which is great. They can tell a company to pull an ad or change it. And honestly, their biggest weapon is naming and shaming. They put out reports that call out the offenders. But, and this is a big but, look at what they can't do. They can't issue fines, they can't sue anybody. Their power comes from the industry agreeing to play by the rules, not from the law itself. Okay, so that's the industry referee. Now let's bring in the next player. If the ASAI is the ref on the field, think of the CCPC as the cop on the beat. And this is where things start to get a lot more serious. We're moving away from industry codes and into the actual law of the land.
So, remember how the ASI was self-regulatory? Well, the CCPC is the exact opposite. It's a statutory body. That's a fancy way of saying it was created by law, by an act of parliament. And that means it has the full weight and force of the law behind it. Their whole job is to enforce the laws that protect you and me, the consumer.
And their mission statement makes it really clear. They're not worried about whether an ad is in bad taste or just a bit silly. They get involved when an ad is breaking the law. We're talking about things that are properly deceptive or unfair to you as a consumer. This is the body that can take real, formal legal action. And right here, you can see the massive difference in power. Yeah, the CCPC can investigate, just like the ASII, but, and this is huge, they can also issue legally binding compliance notices, they can hit companies with actual fines, and they can even take them to court. It is a completely different ballgame. Now, one really important thing to know is that their job is to punish the company for breaking the law. It's not to get your individual money back if you lost out. So let's just put it side by side to make it super clear. You've got the ASCI, the referee, whose power comes from an industry code of conduct. Their goal? Get the ad changed or taken down. Then you've got the CCPC, the cop, whose power comes directly from the law. The outcome there? We're talking fines, maybe even prosecution. It really is the industry's own rules versus the actual law of the land.
But wait, we're not done yet. It turns out there are a couple more key players we need to talk about. There's a specialist guard who's looking after your personal data, and then there's the ultimate judge.
Let's talk about the DPC, the Data Protection Commission. In today's world, this body is absolutely crucial. They're the ones enforcing huge, powerful laws like GDPR. So think about it.
If an advertiser is messing with your data without your say-so, like sending you spam texts you never signed up for or using those sneaky tracking cookies even after you said no, the DPC is exactly who you need to call. They are the data watchdog.
And they see their job as something bigger than just ticking boxes. They're there to uphold a fundamental human right, the right to have your personal data protected. And they have serious power to back it up. We're talking investigations and the ability to issue massive fines. That's a huge deal, especially here in Ireland, where so many of the big tech giants have their European headquarters.
And last but not least, we have the ultimate judge, the courts themselves. This is where you go when everything else has failed, or, and this is key, when you've actually lost money because of a dodgy ad. The courts are the final stop. Their decisions are absolutely binding, and they are the only ones who can make a company pay you back for your financial loss.
And here's a super practical, really useful number for you to keep in your back pocket: €2,000. If you've lost money because of a misleading ad, let's say you bought something that didn't do what it promised, you can use what's called the small claims procedure to go after that money, up to €2,000. It's specifically designed to be quick, low cost, and a way for you to get justice without having to hire a team of expensive lawyers.
All right, so we've met the referee, the cop, the privacy guard, and the judge. We know who's who. Now for the payoff. How do you actually use all this information? Let's walk through a simple, practical guide so you know exactly who to call.
Think of this as your decision-making flowchart, okay? Step 1. Is the ad just offensive, maybe in bad taste, or a bit misleading but not, illegal? Your first call is the ASI. Right. Step 2. Is the ad actually illegal? Is it deceptive in a way that breaks consumer law? Then you go straight to the CCPC. Step 3. Is this about your personal data? Are they using your info for marketing without permission? That's a job for the DPC. And finally, Step 4. Did you actually lose money and you want to get it back? Then your destination is the courts.
So here it is, the whole system on one cheat sheet. For stuff like offensive or untruthful content, you want the ASI, because their power is getting the ad pulled. For actual breaches of the law, consumer rights, or data privacy, you go to the big regulators, the CCPC or DPC, who can bring down fines. And if your goal is getting your own money back, personal compensation, the only place for that is the courts. Knowing which door to knock on is honestly half the battle.
So all of this leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? We've got this system, right? A balance between the industry policing itself and the law stepping in. But when you think about today's world with social media influencers, targeted digital ads, and complex algorithms, who should really hold the power? Is it better for the industry to regulate itself, or do we need even stronger laws and more powerful cops on the beat to keep things fair? It's a massive debate, and it's one that's going to shape our digital future. Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.